This channel has been around for almost 6 years now. Yeah, time flies. I know. In that span of time, I've reviewed and talked about a lot of series, and some of those reviews or critiques I've changed my mind about. After seeing other channels I look up to and watch, like Cosmonaut Variety Hour and Karsten RuneQuest, go back to update previous reviews of theirs, I realized this was something I really wanted to do too. Today, we're going to do some backtracking, going over a large amount of things that I've covered in the past that I have since changed my mind about. I'm not going to recap the show or give summaries to them. This video is instead going to be a pretty honest and transparent discussion about how I viewed the series, how my video creation process goes, and other little tidbits about my brain. Although first, I have to thank Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Whether it's working on film sets for 12 hours, going to school, or working on videos to ungodly hours of the night, recently, my sleep schedule has been pretty awful. I'm either waking up late or going to sleep even later. Because of this, I'm usually very exhausted during the day, and even with my blinds closed, my room is still pretty lit, so it's impossible to nap. That's where Manta Sleep's sleep mask has saved my life. And I mean this genuinely. Lately, I could just put it on and it blacks out my field of view perfectly. Their masks don't apply any pressure or make my eyes or ears feel uncomfortable. The material is super light, so it doesn't lead to any nightly sweating. It's just been great to use, and it has been working very effectively for me to get power naps in. When I wake up, I'm refreshed, and I'm ready to keep up the grind for whatever it is I'm working on. I would not be able to nap during the day without them, and I would be way less productive without them. They're also super adjustable to any head shape, so my girlfriend Juliet and I take turns using the masks. If you head over to their website, you can use my code MrHunteru to get yourself 10% off any purchase site-wide. Thank you again, Manta Sleep, for sponsoring this video. I cannot recommend their products enough. And now let us get to reviewing my reviews. I don't think I would necessarily change my mind about a lot of the series that I covered in the very early days of the channel. I still feel the same way about God of High School, about Angel Beats and Steins Gate, and I guess my feelings are a little mixed on Attack on Titan these days, but I do want to jump forward a year into the channel having existed, because there is one I do want to talk about very quickly. For those that have been around since basically the beginning of this channel, you will know Higurashi has been the MrHunteru bread and butter. I'd dare to say that probably half the videos on this channel are related to that anime and visual novel, but also the series has been one that I've had extremely conflicted feelings about. I loved it right up until Higurashi Sotsu, which ended up making not just that season, but the entire franchise leave a sour taste in my mouth. But then I managed to find that love again through the Timeline series, where I then learned the anime I adored was actually horribly inaccurate to the source material. While talking about my feelings regarding Higurashi these days could probably be a video in itself, there is one part of it that I wanted to talk about specifically in this video, and that is the aforementioned Go and Sotsu. Back in the day, when I made my video alongside Bastard about what went wrong in Go and Sotsu, that was coming from the angle of strictly an anime-only viewer. I had not yet read the visual novel, or the manga, or really dipped my toes into the series at all. In fact, I'd only been a fan of Higurashi for, I think, less than a year at that point in time. It wouldn't be too far off to say that despite being the prominent face of Higurashi during the Go and Sotsu period of time in the States, that I was a tourist. I was nowhere near a die-hard fan, and there was a lot of things about the series that I just didn't get. Even still, I gave Higurashi Sotsu a 4 out of 10. It did a lot of things wrong, but I'd go to say that most of my complaints in the video were nitpicks or continuity issues. Flash forward 5 years, many videos and reading sessions, and a gigantic iceberg later, I'd say I'm pretty knowledgeable about Higurashi now. Not the top dog in the fandom, but well-poised and no longer a tourist. It is with that knowledge that upon revisiting Go and Sotsu that I've realized these are potentially some of the worst sequels ever made for any medium of entertainment, and I mean that genuinely. Again, for the sake of not making this video all about Higurashi, I'll just condense all of my complaints down to one thing. Sadako. Back when I watched Sotsu, Sadako's behavior was bad to me. A lot of people called it character assassination, and I bought into those claims too, but I wouldn't say I completely understood why it was being called character assassination. After having read the visual novel and the manga, I could say nowadays, I get it. The Dean anime, while I love it, left out a lot of characterization for her, and I think it did her the most dirty with Totoro and Miyakashi, the arcs in the first season with Teppei and Shion. These fragments of the story showed us that while Sadako acted confidently, brashly, overly ladylike, that was all just a facade. She was putting on a tough girl front because she felt responsible for Satoshi's disappearance. In fact, she knew it was probably her fault, entirely, that he was gone. Her death in Mieruko-Chan especially is powerful because she opens up so much about her struggles and how much she misses him, but holds on strong until the very end, just in case he's somehow watching her still. It helped us learn why in Higurashi and Higurashi, Sadako refuses help, because she wants to seem strong and independent for her brother, and it's what makes her letting go, realizing that she can ask for help and has her friends so much more powerful. Sadako has a great lineup of people and support, and while Satoshi isn't there right now, she knows one day he will come back somehow. So she needs to continue to be strong, but that it's okay to rely on other people. It is all of this that makes her becoming a psychopathic murderer and possessive friend in Go and Sotsu make absolutely zero sense. She just completely ignores the rest of her friends and hyper-focuses on Rika and is willing to jeopardize everything because she's struggling to study? Are you kidding me? I think what's more crazy is after seeing everything that Rika had gone through, she still decides that it's okay to go through with what she's doing just because she's upset with studying. There are obviously a lot more issues than just Sadako, but again, there are just so many of them that I feel it is best saved for an updated video, like in the timeline series for when I get to Go and Sotsu. But the Sadako issues are the ones that bug me more than anything else nowadays. Reading the visual novels and manga made me take my score of Higurashi Sotsu from a 4 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10. Genuinely dog shit. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. A lot of people defend Go for being good, which I honestly may have played a part of in spreading that agenda, but in hindsight, it isn't very good either. The first 2 arcs of Go are basically repeats of the first 2 from the original series, with slight breakneck twists at the end that, when explained in Sotsu, aren't too interesting. And I would go to say that the one that is after the first 2, the one with Tepe coming back to the village, also isn't too interesting. The only thing worthwhile is Nekodomashi and Satsukawashi, which is the last half of Go, and even those are brought down and ruined by Sotsu, as are the first 3 question arcs. I originally had Higurashi Go at a 9 out of 10, but after some reflection, I've realized that that rating was heavily inflated because of how much I enjoyed making videos about it and interacting with the community. I have dropped it down to a 6 out of 10 because Sotsu, being the follow-up, kind of retroactively makes the rest of it worse. On the day that Iceberg was released, we got the announcement of a new Higurashi anime coming by Studio Dean, and I'm happy the franchise is returning to them. Dean has had its flaws with its adaptations, sure, but it was far better than what Studio Passione did with the series. I still don't really know what Ryukishi was thinking when he chose them, because if we go and look at their catalog, a lot of the series they've covered in the past are ecchi, like Interspecies Reviewers, which is borderline something else. Regardless, let us hope this new adaptation, whatever it ends up being, is good. After this Higurashi Go and Sotsu retrospective, I slowed down a lot on the channel. For a while, I wasn't sure why I slowed down. I loved making videos, analyzing media, and engaging with the community. What had changed? After some time, I realized the root of this was also Higurashi. Go and Sotsu were so disappointing that it really burnt me out to put so much into looking at a series that ended up being something I hated. In fact, ever since Go and Sotsu, I kind of stopped consistently watching seasonal anime. There are a lot of times there's something that's coming out that I'm interested in watching, or there are times that things come out that are follow-ups to things I'm interested in, but because of the psychic damage I guess the series did to me, I don't go check them out. Some of the only times I actually watch anime nowadays is for my list videos. It has just instilled a kind of fear in me to put so much time into talking and analyzing something for it to ultimately end up disappointing that I kind of not wanted to do that a lot with anime. But I was also a little scared. Around the time of the retrospective, I made a community post that I believe is now deleted to see if people would still watch me after Higurashi was over. Obviously, doing this was probably a bad idea for my mental, and it was made even worse as it was an overwhelming amount of people saying no. Instead of trying to branch out and find new viewers, I kind of just took it on the chin and stopped. I would continue to upload, but it was nowhere near the pace that I had had before, and in turn, it ended up making me reflect back on my content. I appreciated a lot of the ideas that I was talking about and suggesting in my videos, but the editing, I feel, has always been not the best. And dare I say, it even is kind of slideshowy. Even to this day, I still think my editing could use a lot of work, but around July of last year, when I went to go and make the Watanagashi video, I decided that even if my presentation might not have been the best, that I wanted all of the information that I presented to be thorough and pristine, so at least viewers would be getting something out of the videos they came to watch. And that's kind of just been my philosophy ever since. That's why videos keep getting longer, because I keep wanting to add as much information as possible so somebody can watch one of these videos and walk away, hopefully, an expert on the topic. It's a bit of a double-edged sword though, because I feel like I went from never having videos above an hour to now we have like consistently 3-hour-long videos. Regardless, after this, uploads would slow down, and it wasn't for a full 2 years until I uploaded another video with some opinions that I have since changed my mind on. And that is the most disturbing horror anime ever. Not only was my hatred for Higurashi at the time pretty transparent, I also talked about a series called Aku no Hana, or Flowers of Evil. I will be upfront with all of you. Prior to when I started working on this video, I had not seen this anime before. I was in desperate need for a 5th anime for the video, as I thought 5 would be a good number of shows to talk about, and after being recommended it by my friend King Sidecastle, I decided to check it out. It was disturbing, sure, but it wasn't as disturbing as I was painting it out to be. I would say it was more uncomforting than anything, and that's because of the love triangle at the center of it. Kasuga is a person who acted on impulse, and now because of that, he is constantly suffering from the consequences of that impulsive decision. Nakamura is clearly very troubled, and Saiki starts off innocent and sweet, but jealousy drives her to do some terrible things. While watching it, I realized something that I wasn't sure that I liked, and that was I saw myself in Kasuga, and that Nakamura reminded me of my ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend. For those that aren't aware, in my video Steins Gate Saved My Life, I detailed an extremely abusive relationship I went through in high school, and that girl was a lot like Nakamura. Now obviously I didn't steal girls' gym uniforms or anything like Kasuga does, but my ex was the kind of person who would enable me and push me to do bad and uncomfortable things I wouldn't normally want to do. And she did a lot of things that have stuck with me. Scars, emotionally, that part of me wonders if I will ever recover from. It might be not the best to admit this in this video, but it's been almost 10 years since that relationship, and there are places that I cannot go to or visit because it reminds me of her or takes me back to a really bad place that I don't want to think about. I'll think about things that happened in that relationship more than once a week. I would say more than once a day sometimes. In some aspects, I feel it's ruined me, and that's very painful to admit. After having watched Flowers of Evil, this anime stuck with me. A lot more than the others that I watched for that video, and others that I had watched in general. Eventually, I went to read the manga, and I would say it had a very profound effect on me, because the part of myself that I saw in Kasuga grew exponentially as this relationship with Nakamura grew more and more like the one that I used to have with my ex. When I watched Flowers of Evil, I gave the anime an 8 out of 10, but I think today I would change that to a 10 out of 10. It offers a lot, and is such a unique experience that is very underrated. Outside of technical aspects, though, the anime and manga have helped me in ways that I never would have realized. It has since become probably my favorite piece of media, surpassing both Steins Gate and Umineko. I've thought about making a video where I open up and talk about it, kind of like the Steins Gate video, but my channel was so much smaller back then. It felt a lot easier to do that. Now we've got 30,000 people here. Granted, not everyone is going to watch every video, but being that vulnerable in front of that many people seems really frightening. But it really is a video I wish to make one day. By putting Flowers of Evil in the disturbing anime video, I think that I put it in the wrong group of shows in the public consciousness. I'm sure some people might hear that and think, surely it wasn't your fault that the public got this perception of the show this way. But 200,000 people saw that video, and since then, a few videos have come out calling it too disturbing and saying stay away from this manga, which I think collectively, me and these people have given the series the wrong impression to people. It isn't meant to be a shock factor or overly disturbing series. Flowers of Evil is meant to be a series to help those that have been abused by partners come to terms with or understand that abuse. Yes, some of the things in it that happen are very shocking, but it would be shocking for anybody in those situations too. It's an added level of realism that I didn't really expect to find in a manga. The author of it, Shizuo Oshimi, wrote something in the last chapter that has stuck with me. I think about it probably once a week. I'll read it to you now just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Just as Kasuga says in the story, nothing ends. Just as the final page of this manga begins anew. If the story that follows is your story, I believe this manga has a reason to exist in the world. and I believe you will meet again, somewhere, someday. After being haunted by this previous relationship of mine for almost 10 years, I know that I am scarred emotionally in some capacity. And this series has taught me that even if I can never truly get over the pain and some of the situations and some of the things that happened and were done to me, that life can still go on. I can still live with what was done, and I can find happiness still. We'll see if I can eventually build up the courage to cover Flowers of Evil on the channel. It's something I want to do, but we'll see. Almost a year after the most disturbing anime video, I made the first Pride video. I am surrounded by a ton of LGBTQ+ people in my life, like my partner and my uncle, so I'd always been wanting to try and give back to the community somehow and show just how much I support them. A video for Pride was something I had wanted to do all the way since the channel was made back in 2020, and this I watched 20 LGBT anime video was eventually the spawn of that desire, and the first of its kind for my channel where I'd watch multiple series and give them shotgun-like reviews. I liked this style of content a lot. You see, with YouTube, there are a lot of series that I would love to talk about, but odds are those videos will get 0 views and probably not worth the effort it would take to make them. My editing isn't the best, and I am quite slow at editing, so it can take me some time to make videos. Series like Kagushi Goto, which I love, is one no one would probably watch a video of me talking about. Vivy is a masterpiece of a show that most people have forgotten about and would probably flop as a video, given the Metal Float video I posted about Vivy did as well. Zombieland Saga is not a show people are going out of their way to watch analysis for. As the channel grows bigger, I will be able to more confidently make videos about niche series, as people will be more likely to watch them, especially with a lot of series I believe deserve more notoriety, but as of right now, I just don't have that kind of pull with YouTube. Videos on niche topics are only about to get 1,000 views, which I don't think is fair to these shows that deserve so much more attention. So by putting some of these shows into a list video like the LGBTQ one, it gives me the ability to not only talk about them, making it worth the work to edit that video, it also gives me the excuse to watch a ton of new shows that I've been wanting to watch anyways. However, there was one thing I really regretted when making this video, and that was rating representation. Over time, I realized rating representation was, well, kind of stupid. Why on earth would I try and scale representation? So in the follow-up Pride video with Chloe, this was removed since it ended up not making sense to me in the long run. Regardless of the rep rating, I was able to watch a ton of series that I would come to love immensely, even to this day, like Number 6, Paradise Kiss, Flip Flappers, and Devilman Crybaby. But of course, it is in this video because there are some series that I have changed my mind about. The first is Antique Bakery. This one isn't a dramatic shift. I just feel like maybe I was a little too hard on this show during my review, so I bumped it from a 3 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10. How gracious of me, I know. But I don't know. I think I was just trying to maybe overcompensate for seeming like I really knew what I was talking about, so I was just kind of bashing it over the head for really silly reasons. Of course, some of those reasons were extremely valid, though, like why is there a kidnapping subplot in a wholesome baking show? And there is a lot of homophobia, some questionable queer baiting. It definitely didn't deserve as much hate as I was giving it, but it's still a really bad show that I would not typically recommend to people. The next is Tokyo Godfathers. Ever since watching this movie in 2024, I've watched it at least 5 or more times, and it's become a bit of a Christmas tradition to watch it. There really just isn't anything to hate, or even remotely dislike for that matter. Tokyo Godfathers has perfect pacing, one of the best trio of main characters I've ever seen, and it's just a total joy to watch. I gave it a 9 out of 10 in the original video, but I think it's a 10 out of 10. Genuinely a masterpiece, and an underrated gem among Satoshi Kon's works. It's even in my top 50 now, in terms for movies on Letterboxd. Next is Yurikuma Arashi, a show that while I did like it a lot, I let one thing kind of hold me back from loving it, and that was the fan service. Admittedly back then, I was kind of being a bit of a prude. With how many eyes kept coming to the channel, I was very concerned how people would end up viewing me. So I feel in some areas, I would try to overcompensate to get people to like me. Like I just talked about with Antique Bakery, sometimes it was maybe going a little too hard in the paint on a show that didn't deserve it, to make it seem like I had very strong and true opinions. And I think it also is especially true for how I viewed fan service. In most shows like Fire Force, it has no place existing. In fact, it actively pisses me off. But in Yurikuma, I think it does have a place. I have come more and more over time to agree with my former patron Jim. I say former patron because I decided to act my Patreon. Jim is still the GOAT, and I love him. I hope he's okay out there, wherever he is in the world. What he said was that fan service was there to make us uncomfortable, just like a youth would be uncomfortable with discovering their sexuality or gender. Over time, because of what Jim said, I've realized the fan service in the show isn't really fan service at all. It's not there to try and get people to like crank their shit to it. It's there to be artful, something I'd not really realized was possible in anime. I just always assumed that any form of nudity meant gooners would go crazy for it, since that was kind of what I grew up with. You know, shows like Heaven's Lost Property, High School DxD, Yamada's First, Girls Bravo, those were just there to get people feeling horny. So an anime presenting a form of nudity or fan service as a form of art was something I wasn't used to. This made me reevaluate the show and even start looking back at other shows I wrote off as being fan service slop. My re-examination of Yurikuma's fan service, coupled with just how much some of the scenes in the later half of the series stuck with me, has made me bump Yurikuma from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. It is a serious, underrated gem that I am surprised more people don't talk about. Revolutionary Girl Utena gets a lot of praise, but I feel people should check out Ikuhara's other works like this one, and especially Sarazanmai, a show that I watched for last year's Pride video that I absolutely adore. Now this next one is a big reason I wanted to make this video in the first place, and that is Happy Sugar Life. For those that aren't aware, because I don't actually think I really talked about this, I might have done it in the post-mortem stream where I talked about the production of this video, but I went to Reddit to ask for series that had bad LGBTQ representation. I had plenty of shows that had good rep, but the intention with that video was to find shows that had bad rep, contrast them with ones that have good rep, so that way, you know, there could be discussion about them, and, you know, why is this bad? What makes this good? It was a lot harder to discover anyone that was really bad that I hadn't already discovered. I mean, after all, if a show has bad rep or is bad, why would people talk about it anymore unless it's like funny bad? One of the shows that was recommended in that comment section was Happy Sugar Life, and I could see why it was recommended as a bad show because the main character, who's like 16, was in love with, and of course later kidnaps and grooms, I believe, a toddler. A lot of people argue to this day whether Sato had romantic feelings for Shio or not, and I still personally believe she did. Most of the arguments for why she doesn't love Shio is that it isn't sexual, but this is a sexual erasure if you ask me. Romantic feelings without sexual desire absolutely exist. It makes it pretty explicit in many parts of the series that these feelings aren't parental or motherly. The reason Happy Sugar Life is in this video is because unlike this most recent Pride video, as I mentioned earlier, the first one rated both representation and story separately. The representation I gave a 1 out of 10 because, I mean, obviously Sato is a pedophile, and we see in bonus chapters through the manga how Sato has completely ruined the rest of Shio's life. However, what I did that was unfair was let the representation score influence the story score. Is Sato a pedophile? Absolutely. But the story wasn't ever really meant to be a lesbian love story. It's a psychological horror. They never glorify the fact that she's a pedophile. They condemn and show how she's wrong, and even show the repercussion of many of her actions, which are things I do talk about in my original review, yet I still let the representation rating affect the story rating, because it was in a Pride video after all. As a Pride anime, yes, it is still a 3 out of 10. However, Happy Sugar Life should not have been in the first Pride video. Later that year, I made a video about horror anime that this anime should have been included in, and if it were in that video, I think a 5 out of 10 is a much more fitting rating for it. It's a fucked up show about fucked up people who do fucked up things. This entire message of Happy Sugar Life is about the cycle of abuse and how abusing can turn victims into future abusers, which unfortunately is something that can and does happen in the real world. The show encapsulates the worst parts of the cycle of abuse, and I shouldn't have classified it as a lesbian love story. That's like me watching Obsession and classifying it as a love story, when, while technically romance is involved in the story, that is absolutely not the intention. No one is watching Obsession for a romance movie. However, even being viewed as a horror anime, it's still not remotely near a masterpiece. There are a lot of problems with this show, too many to count. The characters, for one, are a bit too over the top. Sometimes people in the story are cartoonishly evil or fucked up, and in other cases, things happen in it that are purely just to be upsetting or for shock factor with no true narrative purpose. Plus, while it does condemn Sato in the story for kidnapping a toddler and grooming her, I don't know if it condemns her enough. Sometimes, honestly, it feels like it's almost glorifying their relationship. I get that the story is coming from Sato's perspective, but it totes a really weird gray area. So that's why I think a 5 out of 10, where it's kind of in the middle, is fitting. Because the point is that Happy Sugar Life is much more nuanced and complex than I made it out to be initially. Which, talking about all of this horror-related stuff, for October that year, I knew I wanted to do a video in a similar style to the Pride video, where I talked about horror anime. For those that are in the Discord, or know me personally, they know that horror media is more of a personality trait of mine than an interest. It is beyond an obsession. And I'm not just saying that because I just talked about the movie Obsession. Literally, I breathe horror movies. I love and watch and consume horror movies. I watch a lot of Dead Meat and other channels that discuss horror movies. It is just a core part of what makes Hunter Hunter. However, a lot of time was dedicated to the follow-up to the Longlegs ARG video this year, where I dissected the movie and the rest of the ARG alongside Juliet. And that sequel video was a disaster. It was the first time I really hired an editor to help me with such a large-scale project. I would edit the ARG segment parts since that was harder to find exactly what I wanted for editors, and I knew what I wanted there, while the editors, on the other hand, would edit scenes and parts of the movie. The editor I hired initially ended up doing an okay job, but they weren't very communicative. It took over a month to get any progress or updates, and we were rapidly approaching when it needed to be done. So to help things speed up, I hired another editor to do the last half of the movie. This new editor was not very good and used a lot of generative AI, something I hated at the time, and I would say I hate even more nowadays. I do not want any form of AI ever in my videos, whatsoever. Because of that, I had to go through and edit the second editor's parts entirely myself. So suddenly I was out of money because I paid a lot of editors when I probably shouldn't have, and I was doing a bulk of the work by myself, making it take way longer than anticipated. By the time it was finally done, we were already halfway in October, and I hadn't started the 13 horror anime video. Because of this, the end result is probably the worst video I think I've ever posted. All of my thoughts were rushed and incomplete because I was just hurrying to get it out there before October ended. So I'm going to try and fix those errors here. I would say a lot of the scores are the same though, so I'm not going to re-review them. I'm just going to, of course, update the reviews and scores of the ones that I changed my mind about. Starting immediately with Shiki, a show I gave a great review of in the video, but one I think I still undersold. Shiki is genuinely one, if not the best horror anime ever made. The atmosphere is intoxicating, while also still being suffocating. It is one of the best lineups I've ever seen for a cast, and the story unfolds in a way that is so extremely satisfying if you pay attention. It's completely underrated and deserves so much more attention than it gets. I gave it a 9 out of 10, but I think it's absolutely a 10 out of 10. I'm not going to talk too much about this show here, because if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. Seriously, more people need to know about Shiki. High-Rise Invasion. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this show. I gave it a 2 out of 10, but honestly, it's a 1 out of 10. It's a big pile of dog shit that has some good music, but ultimately is a show I had forgotten about, and I will forget about once this video goes public. Mieruko-Chan is another series I think I was a little hard on for fan service. Did the fan service need to be in the show? No. Was it a little distracting at points? Absolutely. And that could be blamed on the studio and the directors helming it because, like I talked about in that video, a lot of their prior history was ecchi anime. Ignoring that though, the story present was still so enjoyable. I think it deserves a bit more credit for what it was doing. After watching the anime, I actually caught up completely with the manga because of how much I was enjoying myself with it. It was very interesting to see that a lot of the fan service scenes that were in the anime did not exist really in the manga. So what was going on there, Studio Passione? What are we saying here? I do think Mieruko-Chan has amazing ghost designs. It has some good character writing and really sweet, heartwarming moments. Who cares if they show some ass every once in a while? I mean, it's horror, you know, that's gonna be in the genre probably no matter what. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it deserves an 8 out of 10. If you haven't seen the series yet, I would definitely recommend the manga because while there are still some questionable fan service moments at the beginning, they are far and few between and disappear so much faster than they do in the anime. Another series I let the fan service bog down for me was High School of the Dead, which looking back on, I think was very unfair. It is so clear in hindsight that the show is supposed to echo some very typical horror tropes and just be a raunchy, silly, fun time. I took reviewing it a little too seriously instead of having more fun with it. A lot of the time it makes the fan service so over the top, in fact, that it's teetering into the point of being a parody of the ecchi anime genre instead of trying to be an ecchi anime. Like the boob sniper scene. Are you kidding me? That's fucking ridiculous. In essence, I was too hard on this series for stuff it was obviously trying to play for jokes, so I'll bump it from a 5 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10. It's still no masterpiece. I don't think it offers a ton for the zombie genre, but I was far too hard on it initially. Chorus Party Tortured Souls. I gave this a 3 out of 10. I don't have too much to say about it, outside of the fact that it's probably a 2 out of 10. I would give it a 1 out of 10 if some of the deaths weren't so insane. Elfen Lied is a show that I thought maybe I would appreciate more with time, since a lot of people seem to really like it, and it was an older anime, but I think I've actually started to like it less over time. There's incest, there's fetish stuff, there's over-the-top gore, there's blood explosions, and there's shit everywhere. I would be surprised if there actually was shit in it. I'm pretty sure there was a scene where, like, this girl gets mud on her underwear, like, right where her ass is. It looks like she shit herself. It's an anime that tries almost too hard to be edgy. It's like they're going down a checklist saying, yes, we need this cousin to kiss this other cousin. We also need this girl to pee herself. We need this girl's boobs to be out while she acts like she has the mind of a toddler. And we need to have this guy's head explode. A lot of it just doesn't work. I think it is a anime that is very dated and only will come to be more dated as time progresses. It's also anything but conclusive, and I don't see what people see in it. I gave it a 4 out of 10, but fuck it, man, this show sucks. It's probably a 2 out of 10. A 1 out of 10 feels a little too harsh because I feel like I need to still give it some respect for what it did for anime as a medium. I know a lot of people recommend that I read the manga, but I kind of don't like this series so much that I don't really want to indulge in it any further. Maybe one day I will because people are so adamant that it actually is good, but I just doubt that. I just don't believe that. I feel like Elfen Lied is one of those shows that is kind of like, this is going to be a crazy comparison, but Dragon Ball, where you need to watch it when you're younger and it gets worse with age and is probably not meant to be rewatched, because most of the people that I know personally that really like Elfen Lied watched it when they were far younger. I'm talking like 13 or 14. But, I don't know. Dusk, Maiden of Amnesia was a show I honestly forgot I watched, but after revisiting it, I think maybe I was being a little too easy on it. I gave it a 7 out of 10, but it's more like a 6 out of 10. It honestly could be a 5 out of 10, but I'm going to stick with a 6 out of 10 because I don't remember much about it. And that's kind of it. While I do think I should give Boogiepop Phantom a higher score, I still need to read the light novel that I purchased and watch the Boogiepop prequel series that was released later in time. Boogiepop Phantom has the makings of a potential masterpiece show, but we'll see. And that's it. These were some shows and movies that I had been wanting to change my public opinion about for some time now, and I figured what better time to do it than now? Maybe sometime down the line, this video or the most recent Pride one, we'll get some updated reviewing. It was nice to open up and walk you guys through my thought process on some of the things that I don't normally get to talk about, and maybe it was interesting to hear about. I'm not too sure. I hope that you were able to enjoy it though. I'll catch you guys next time.